Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brooke Kelly, and I am the melanoma telehealth nurse, as most of you will be aware. I have the pleasure of presenting to you all this afternoon the importance on self-care. Okay, so what is self-care? Most of you will have heard the terminology before. And as volunteers, it is important that we do practice self-care. We're going to talk as well today about the wellness wheel, compassion, fatigue and burnout, which is a big one for anyone working in particular the health field, managing our boundaries and practicing self-care. So a little bit more about self-care. So the Black Dog Institute refers to self-care being the activities and practices that we deliberately choose to engage in on a regular basis to maintain and enhance our health and well-being. If you don't look after yourself, you won't be able to help others or yourself. Self-care helps prevent stress and anxiety. Self-care makes you more effective, and volunteering can be a part of your self-care. So the non-physical ways to practice self-care, there's so many of them and it is an individual thing. So some of the things we can do is asking for help, spending time alone when we need it, putting yourself first, and that's always a difficult one I find, asking for what you really need, setting boundaries, staying at home, saying no when you feel up to not doing certain events. It's really important that we can choose to identify when we don't want to participate in something. Forgiving yourself and taking a step back. So all of these are really important things that we can all do by practicing our self-care and making sure we're looking after ourselves. So volunteering and self-care. So Reach Out identified 5 ways to take care of yourself when donating your time. Number 1, organise your time. Know your own limits. Once again, it's okay to say no. Have some fun and treat yourself. So now we're going to talk today about the wellness wheel, and this encompasses many areas of our lives. So we have our relationships, atmosphere and fun, work and school, our physical health, spirit, body, mind, and finances. So this is all used to measure happiness in all aspects of our life. What we can do is we can rate each of our satisfaction in all these areas between a scale of 1 and 10. Setting 1 to 3 goals in an area that the score lowers than others, and having some SMART goals for our future. So having some specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So what we can do in relation to this is it's probably good practice to all sit down and measure our own happiness and have a look at the wellness wheel for ourselves and rate each of these areas. There may be an area that you can identify that needs further work, and you can start to make some small steps and goals to work towards what that may be. So this is just one of our resources that you can all use. So the spokes in the wheel. So a bit more detail in relation to this. Number 1 is our mind, our mental wellness. Am I intellectually stimulated by my own life, or am I bored? Do I have sufficient creative outlets, for example? Number 2, body, our physical wellness. Am I getting enough sleep at the moment? Do I have an established exercise routine? These things are so important, and sometimes as busy health clinicians, we can neglect to do these things for ourselves. Heart, our emotion wellness. Do I have ways to reduce stress in my life? Do I love myself, and am I unconditionally able to love others? Number 4, spirit, spiritual wellness. Do I have a strong sense of purpose in my life? Do I have regular meditation practice or create time for prayer or affirmations? Do I feel like I belong? This is always another area that we can always look back on and reflect and find if there's areas in our life that we want to improve. Finances, number 5, financial wellness. Am I able to live within my means? Am I able to create a budget and stick to it? Number 6, relationships and social wellness. Do I have strong support systems? And do I make time to get out and visit my friends and family? Once again, we can sometimes neglect to do these things when we're busy and when we're committed and giving back to others. So it's important that we also reevaluate these things in our lives. Number 7, work, school, occupational wellness. Am I satisfied with my current career or education path? Am I motivated to getting enough with my work in every day? Is this an area I want to improve on? They're good questions to ask yourself and a good conversation to have with those you trust, as well as the people you work with, because it's important that you're on the right pathway and that you feel really happy and satisfied with what you're doing in your life. And number 8, atmosphere and fun, your environmental wellness. Do I get to have fun? Do I get to go outside often? Is my house safe? Does it nourish me? Do I keep my areas clean and organized? Having a really happy space can also really internalize how we're feeling and can set the limits as to what we want to take on during the day. So all of these things are really important, and we can all reflect and we can all go through these step by step to find out really how we're going in each of these domains of our life. So most importantly, compassion, fatigue, and burnout, which is something we've all heard before. So now we'll go into what this really means. Okay, so managing compassion fatigue, how do we do that? So I guess you're all in this because you are giving people and you like helping others. So naturally you are a giving person. So it's important that we conserve our own energy for ourselves and for our own family as well when we're the giving type of personality. So managing this, how do we do this? Number 1, get to know what your triggers are. That's really important. Number 2, create transitions from volunteering to home. So what we mean there is when you finish your shift for the day, it's good practice to close your computer and turn your work phone off and then move on to your own activities for the rest of the day. So you have that nice balance between work and home life. Number 3, maintain strong boundaries between volunteering and home, really making sure that you're not working outside of your hours and making sure that you're enjoying your outside of hours activities and pleasurable activities, because that is so important that the people who are volunteering with us, you yourselves, have that lovely balance. Remind yourself, number 4, and others, that you're only human. We can only do so much in one day, and sometimes there will be times where we might feel we want to be harder on ourselves, or we should have done certain things, or maybe we might reflect on something we would have liked to have done differently. Always talk to your manager or someone you trust in relation to something like that, and keep reminding yourself that you are only human. Number 5, remember what you can and you can't control. That's a big one as well, because there sometimes are certain things that are out of our control, even though as giving people, we may want to be able to help every aspect of that person that we're supporting on the other line, or whether it be in our own personal lives. We have to know our own limits and remember that we can't control everything. So we have to learn to let go sometimes. And number 6, connecting to spirituality, and that will obviously be individual for any of you. So whatever that is, and that brings you that satisfaction in your life, we encourage you to keep practicing those things. And number 7, really important, make room for fun and having humor in your day, because I think that really makes a day enjoyable for you and for others. So number 5, managing boundaries. This is something that everybody will learn to do over the years, and it is really important that we all find a way to do this. So managing boundaries between your experience and those seeking support. Your melanoma story can inform support, but it is not the focus. What you know about patients in and outside support areas, take care at social events and do not carry over, of course. So basically what we are referring to here is, what stays within your workspace remains in that room, and we don't encourage those people to have conversations outside of work practices about phone calls or private information that may have been shared between one person to another. Of course, there are limits there, though. If you have had a difficult conversation with a patient or somebody on the phone and you do need to debrief, or you do need to escalate that, of course, that is when you would pick up the phone and speak to somebody you trust, or someone you feel comfortable with, or your manager next in line, and just have that conversation about the phone consult and what was said and how you're feeling. We would always encourage people to feel comfortable about speaking up if they have something on their mind or something that was quite upsetting. And of course, we would always encourage you to escalate when you feel you've reached that scope of practice and you can't give any further information or advice. We're here to support. Okay, so our roles of our volunteer supporters, obviously you're all very good at knowing when to refer patients. As if, of course, you're uncertain at any time, you can always pick up the phone and speak to your direct line manager, or reach out to any other NPA staff members. We're always here to offer help and assistance where need be, and knowing your limitations, as we just discussed, and your strengths. So really sticking to that scope of practice. So if you don't know the answer to something, it's okay to say to somebody, look, I'll get back to you on that point. I don't have the answer for that today. That will be most appropriate. So managing boundaries between time and place in the group, calls outside and meeting outside, watching that creep, because that's really important, and not in your own home. So what we mean in relation to that is, once again, really leaving that work with you at the end of the day in that space that you're working from, whether that's your bedroom or your office space, making sure that what has been said remains confidential and you don't take that into your personal life or let it creep into other relationships. So it's important that you have your debriefing opportunities in relation to that, and managing any feelings or emotions you may have, and really allowing yourself to have that break once you finish your shift for the day, and letting go. And a helping relationship and a friendship. So boundaries can be blurred sometimes within that friendships that may be formed, or if you've spoken to somebody on the phone that you have a personal connection with, it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to just know where your boundaries lie. But we would just encourage you to treat everybody the same, and stick within the script that you've been taught and your scope of practice. So number 6, practicing self-care. And as we touched on at the start, this is obviously individual for everybody. So what one thing works for one of you may not work for another person, and that's okay. So for example, for me, it may be going and listening to some music on Spotify. That might be my way of practicing self-care. But for the person sitting next to me at the lineup at the restaurant, their self-care may be going for a 20-kilometre run. So it will be completely individual for each and every one of you, and that is okay. So there's no set thing we would be encouraging you to do. It's just what you feel comfortable and happy in doing, and that gives you that pleasure. So physical. So just those things that bring you that physical enjoyment. It may be going for walks. It may be going for a run. It can be whatever you would want it to be, basically. Making sure you get your adequate sleep per night. And if that's something that's concerning you, we would encourage you to speak to your healthcare provider about that, about recommendations and some strategies that might help with sleep if that's been an issue. Adequate nutrition. So making sure that you're having your breaks and having your adequate meals and lots of water in between as well. It's really important. And breathing exercises can be really useful for any sort of stress and relaxation that may be required during the day for your personal or work situations. And social. So as we touched on a bit earlier in the slides, just having quality time with family and friends, that's really important. So you're connecting and having that really lovely time with people that are really important to you, and debriefing with colleagues. Once again, we would really encourage that. Always happy for people to pick up the phone, of course, if they would ever like to talk to me or anyone at the MPA team. We're all here together in this for one reason, and we all care about everybody. So would really encourage you to feel comfortable to always have that debriefing when you need to. And just, again, that inner self. So, whatever that may be, once again, it might be keeping a journal or writing your thoughts down on a piece of paper. Having time in nature can be really peaceful and important for people to ground themselves, and connecting with spirituality, which is obviously individual once again. Okay, so just recapping. So what is self-care, which I think we've covered this fairly well today, but obviously it's something that you can learn to do if you haven't done it before in the past. And it's always nice just to start slowly and set small goals for yourself if this is something new you want to give a go. So maintaining and enhancing health and well-being is basically what the meaning of self-care is, and it is individual. So volunteering and self-care. Organise your time, know your limits. It's okay to say no. So if you've been bombarded with things lately and you might feel really tired, maybe your friend might pick up the phone and say, hey, can we come around and drop the kids off for you this afternoon, or can we come catch up and have dinner? You might actually not want to do that. So it's okay to say no. Look, actually, I'm really tired today, or I've had a busy week. Could we catch up next week? You'll actually feel so much better when you do allow yourself to say no and put yourself first. So having some fun and treating yourself, it's so important. So, having that hot bath, or maybe it might be putting a mud mask on, or it might be cutting some flowers. So having some fun and treating yourself, I think that's so important when you're in a giving role such as this. And the wellness wheel. So if you get a chance to refer to the wellness wheel and just assess how you're going in all those domains of life, other areas you want to prioritize on or work on, set some new goals for yourself. It's a really good thing to do. And just being aware of compassion, fatigue, and burnout, particularly in this line of work, and forgiving personalities such as yourselves. It's very common for anyone working in health, as you most be aware, and when you're in those giving type areas. So just being really aware of when you're starting to notice some signs and symptoms that could be an issue, please raise that with your manager or someone you trust and have a conversation about that. And then we can put some things in place to reduce that burden to yourself and take some time to slow down a little bit. So I think, just important to keep engaging with your colleagues and friends and staff in relation to that, and managing your boundaries, as we touched on earlier. And that is for all your life, really. It's not just for work purposes, but in every area aspect of your life. Just setting boundaries with people in general can be really helpful and can really help you to find and assert yourself in your own life as time goes on. And practicing self-care. So once again, that is individual, and everybody will find their own set tasks and activities that work for them. So starting to incorporate that into your life if you can, and even it might just be by starting with one practice once a week and then just gradually building. So obviously we have pre-recorded today's session, but you can send through any questions to me at my email address, which is brooke@melanomapatients.org.au. And I would encourage you to do that if there's something that's still pending on your mind or something that you wanted further information about. And I want to thank you for your time today and wish you all the best. Thank you.